Hello, and welcome to More Yoga with me, Emily. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you're doing well and having a great day and ready for maybe something a little bit different. Um, I don't think I've taught this on the videos. Who knows? It's been a year and a half. I've been doing this for a long time. Um, we're gonna work towards side crow today, which is an arm balance, or rather, I suppose you call it balancing on your hands because you're not, well, anyway. And it's like the other crow, right? Where you're just on your hands and your lower body, your legs are resting on your arms, but it's in a deep twist. And it's not something that I've ever been really great at. And just this morning when I tried to bust one out on my own, I face planted. So that's why I say we're gonna work towards it. Because, like all things, right, it's something that takes a bit of practice. And for me, my yoga practice these days isn't about arm balances. It used to be. I used to be all over that stuff, but doesn't mean I can't still teach it to you, hopefully. So, if you've never done side crow before, some blocks can help because they'll help steady your hands and they lift the floor up to you, gives you a little bit more space. But if you don't have them, don't worry about it. Mat is good. And yeah, side crow requires lots of shoulder girdle strength, lots of twisting core strength, as well as adductors. So we'll get into all of those things first, and then hopefully, maybe it'll be a little bit more accessible. We'll see how it goes. All right. If you're with me, let's start lying down. I don't know why I always set my props up on this side and I have to move them anyway. Depending on how your day has been, you might need to take some time to get some wiggles out or a little stretch or, rub your face, yawn, whatever you need to do. And then find a position that is comfortable for you for a few breaths here. And it could be flat on your back, legs bent, or straight. It could be in a full on big old sea star. And then when you feel ready to be still, for 3 breaths, inhale through your nose. And exhale, sigh your breath away from you. A couple more of those, just like that. And then, excuse me, continue breathing however feels best for you, whether it's in and out through your nose or your mouth. Sometimes the change in weather can make the breath a little bit different, a little bit choppy or sticky, or even if you've just had some food, depending on what it could be, maybe like me, feel like you need to clear your throat once in a while. So just breathe however feels best. Last few moments here. And then start to bring a little bit of movement back into your body. Ooh, whatever way feels best for you to wake up. Could be a big yawning stretch, or a little wiggle of the head from side to side. And when you feel ready, start to bring your knees in toward your chest and take a little rock from side to side. You might even start to draw circles here with your legs, or just mobilizing, waking your body up, whatever way feels best for you. And then pause in the middle. We're going to do a little bit of twisting work here. So the first option is going to be knees on the floor, really using the support. Particularly if you're pregnant, this is going to be the best place potentially for you, depending on how far along you are. To make it a little bit harder, you're going to draw your knees toward you, and the closer the knees are toward you, the easier this will be. If you'd like to make it a little bit more challenging, then stack your knees over your hips and bring your shins parallel to the floor, like in a Pilates tabletop position. And then here, press your low back into the floor. So you're really working transversus abdominis just to stabilize. And then I don't want the legs to be all loosey-goosey, because then you're not working the muscles that really need to work, the deeper core line, as well as the adductors. So hug the legs toward each other like crazy, glue them. If they ever separate, hug them back toward each other. You could even bring a prop in between your legs as a reminder to keep the legs glued together. And then arms out to the side as you inhale here. And exhale. Press the low back into the floor. And on your next inhale, bring your knees over to the right, only so far as you can before you feel like that left shoulder blade is going to de-weight from the floor. And then exhale, come back to center. Hug the legs toward each other the whole time. And then inhale over to the left, only so far as you can before that shoulder blade lifts, and exhale back to center. So if the shoulder blade lifts at any point while you're doing these twists, you've gone too far. Right? I really want you to maintain that stability, that activation. So we're going to be here for a little bit longer. So do what you need to do so that you can keep moving, make it easier or harder. Sometimes I like to bend my elbows here, and then you can really press the upper arm into the floor for a little bit more stability. Inhale to go to one side, exhale back to center. Last few here. Keep squeezing your legs toward each other, or at least don't let them separate. Last one each side. It's hard to talk here. And when you're back to center, release your legs, shake them out a little bit. A little windshield wiper of the knees can help release into the core a bit. And then we'll go back to another set, or not another set, a second exercise. So from here, it's going to be knees up. And if you have a block, then please bring a block to your left thigh and then squeeze it with your right elbow. If you don't have a block, you can just bring your left knee in toward you and maybe extend that right leg. So wherever you need to be, depending on what you have. So block on the left thigh, press the right elbow into it, maybe you extend the right leg, and then lift up enough that you can do little side crunches here. Right? Maybe that right knee stays bent, maybe it extends. Sort of just depends. For me, I feel like I can get a deeper crunch with the knees bent. Last 3, 2, 1, and then come back to center. Shake it out a little bit. So it's not a lift and crunch, it's like a side crunch, if you know what I mean. So the shoulder blades are only slightly lifted. All right, last side. Come back to your sort of Pilates tabletop. Block goes on the right thigh this time. Left elbow crosses to press into it. Lift up slightly so that left shoulder blade is lifted, right shoulder blade still on the floor, and side crunch. Last 3, 2, 1, and come back to center. Whoo, release the legs, release everything. And then if you want to, you might start to rock and roll up and down your spine here if that feels good. If not, don't worry about it. Roll to one side, and then we'll meet on hands and knees for some cat and cow, which hopefully will release it a little bit. So knees underneath hips, toes can be tucked or untucked, and then hands outer shoulder width apart or wider. And this is super important. I want your hands to be really active. So spread the fingers wide, grip the mat with the fingertips, even in cat and cow. And as you inhale, lift the tailbone, hollow through the lower back, wrap the shoulder blades toward each other, beam your heart forward, maybe look forward. And then exhale, tuck your tailbone under, round through the spine. Really press the floor away from you. Inhale, dip into cow. Exhale, round into cat. So a few more of these on your own time, on your own breath. And as always, if there's any other natural movement that would feel really good here, feel free to add on. A wag of your tail from side to side, or big barrel rolls through your chest or shoulders. If your low back feels tight, rounding into cat, send your hips back toward your heels a little bit more. Last 2 breaths here. And on your next inhale, come back to center. All right, sit up nice and actively. Make sure those hands are wide, fingertips gripping the mat. And then keep your elbows straight. Drop your chest through your shoulders. So retracting the shoulder blades here. And then on your exhale, press the hands into the floor to press through the shoulder blades. So protraction. So the elbows stay straight the whole time. These are called scapular push-ups. What it is you're working the shoulder girdle, right? Rather than your chest so much, right? And then you might stay here if you've done these before. Maybe you walk your knees back and come into plank from the knees while doing these scapular push-ups. Again, elbows stay straight the entire time. Or maybe you tuck the toes and do them from a plank from the toes. Last breath here. And release your knees to the earth if they're lifted. Shake out your hands. Do a little wrist release. And then come forward. This time, tuck your toes behind you. Try to get all 10 toes tucked if you can, unless that means that your heels wing out to the side. And then slowly start to send your weight back toward your heels. Now, if you do this regularly, you can go all the way back. Otherwise, take your time. See how it feels. It can feel like a lot. So you don't have to be a hero. You can pause. Maybe you start to send your weight all the way back. Maybe you're sitting here kind of, a little bit actively. You're not just hanging out, right? There's a little lift. There's a little hug of the legs toward each other. It can make it a bit easier if you bring a block between your heels or a pillow, right? It just takes some of the weight forward and up. Otherwise, stay wherever feels, I'm not going to say comfortable, because it's not comfortable, but wherever feels achievable or maintainable for another few breaths. So end of summer, changing footwear. I feel like I'm getting kind of a bit of plantar fasciitis. I've probably worn through all of the cushioning in my sandals. Not flip-flops, because those are the worst, but just, good sport sandals. And so this is a fantastic release for the fascia, the soles of the feet. Now, sometimes the traditional way to get into side crow is to come down and do a toe stand. So this is why we're doing last couple breaths here. Okay, very slowly start to come forward. Release that compression on the tops of the toes. And then you can tap out your feet. If you'd like a counter stretch, then send your hips further back. And you might just pause here. Some people like to rock back, maybe even bring their hands behind them. Sometimes they even lift up the knees. This doesn't work on my body, so if it's good for you, then go there for a couple breaths. And then come forward again. I know it sounds crazy, but hands nice and wide, spring the fingers, tuck your toes again. But don't worry, exhale, lift your hips up and back, downward facing dog. Oh, okay. So now we can get into those calf muscles a little bit. Pedal the heels toward the floor. Wag your tail from side to side. Really press the floor away from you with your hands. I want you to feel that activation through the shoulder girdle. Hug the upper arm bones toward each other. And then on your inhale, ripple forward into plank, either from your toes or from your knees, wherever you need to be. And then take a couple more scapular push-ups. Keep the elbows straight. And then exhale up and back, downward facing dog. Bend your knees, look forward. Exhale, walk, step, or hop to the top edge of your mat, standing forward fold. This is a great place to use blocks to bring the floor up to you. If you want more support, you could rest your elbows on your knees or thighs. If you want more traction through your spine, maybe you clasp opposite elbows with hands. You could sway a little bit from side to side, wherever you need to go. Last couple breaths here. And then fingertips to shins. Inhale, little partway lift. Exhale, let it go. 2 more. Charge your legs. Inhale, sweep all the way up to the sky. Hands overhead. Exhale, hands to prayer. Release your hands, shake it out a little bit. Bend the knees, take a few hip circles, one direction, and then the other. Excuse me for one moment. It's weather change. All right. Standing. This time bring your feet together. So big toe mounds touching. There can be a little space between your heels. This is a super awkward way to stand. My legs just naturally hyperextend when I do that. So instead, let's sit into chair pose. So sit the hips down and back. Hug the legs toward each other like crazy. So the same activation that we had when you were on our backs, right? These big inner thigh muscles, if you hug them towards each other, it takes all the pressure off the tops of the thighs. But more importantly, when we come into side crow, it's going to give you that stability, that hug of the legs toward each other. And then maybe just bring hands to prayer, shoulder blades on your back, tailbone down, belly button to spine. Couple more breaths here. Maybe you sink a little bit lower. Keep hugging the legs toward each other. Hips low, heart high. All right, inhale, stand up and shake out the legs. Round 2. Okay, bring the feet together. Big toe mounds touching. On your inhale, sit into chair pose. Hands in prayer. Hug the legs toward each other. Inhale here. As you exhale, start to twist to the left. Now you might just bring one hand to the knee, one hand to the low back, or maybe you hook an elbow here. Now right away, that right knee wants to sneak forward. So wrap it back in line. Keep hugging the legs toward each other. Hips low, heart high. Now you might stay here, pressing palm into palm. Or you might take the opposite activation, almost trying to separate your hands, but keep the fingertips glued. Or maybe you spread your wings. Couple more breaths here. Really hug the legs toward each other. Last inhale. Last exhale. Inhale, unwind and stand up. Shake it out. All right. Excuse me, my heart rate is starting to come up. I imagine yours is as well. Last set, I promise. Bring the big toe mounds to touch. A little separation in the heels. On your inhale, chair pose. All right, this time, let's twist to the right. So exhale. Maybe the elbow comes to the knee. Maybe you stay up in a higher twist. That's fine for today. Like, this is a lot of work. You know that. Left knee's coming forward. Wrap it back in line. Maybe your palm to palm or Hakimi Mudra, fingertips touching, or maybe you spread your wings. But wherever you are, I want you to think hips low and heart high. Keep hugging the legs toward each other. I know it's getting fiery. Last breath here. Good. And slowly unwind. Stand back up. Shake out those legs. Let's do a couple hip circles again. And a little twist from side to side. All right. Yeah, we have time. Inhale, sweep up to the sky. You're wondering, for what? Uh-oh. Exhale, forward fold. Fingertips to shins. Inhale, little partway lift. Exhale, fold. All right. Come down to hands and knees, just long enough that you can shift your hips on one side and swing your legs forward to a seated position. A little windshield wiper of the knees. And then maybe take just a little lift back of your butt so that your sit bones can really root into the floor. Okay. Option one, hugging the legs toward each other. Maybe they're straight, maybe they're bent, but keep hugging them towards each other and reach forward, sitting tall. A little bit of core work, a little bit of activation here. If you'd like to, I don't want to knock over my bookcase, lean back a little bit more. Spine stays long. Maybe you stay here. Maybe you start to de-weight the legs. Keep the knees bent. All right, hands in prayer. Inhale here. Exhale, twist to the left. And now give the wall a high 10. Can you bring your knees up toward your elbow? Blueprint this position. This is side crow, but on your butt. And then back to center. And then exhale, twist to the right. High 10 the wall. Back to center. And release. Shake it out a little bit. So what do I mean by blueprint, right? It's exactly that same position physically that you're going to be in on the floor, but obviously slightly different activations when your hands are on the floor instead of your butt. All right, so if you're ready, let's try this. Grab blocks if you want to use blocks. If you don't want to, that's fine. It's all good. Or if you don't have them. I lied when I said that last time that it was a last chair pose. We've got 2 more rounds, once more each side. So big toe mounds touching now. Inhale, chair pose. Now maybe just stay here and just decide you don't want to do side crow. Maybe you exhale, twist, or come down. Maybe you stay here. Maybe you start to reach for the floor or sit down into that sort of toe stand position to then find the floor. Now, if you have blocks, you can use blocks, or if you don't, some people set up with their hands parallel to each other and try to get their hips and their thigh on the arm. For me, that doesn't work. It takes a big, big crunch. It's more stable, but it's a lot harder to get into. So I like to bring my left hand a little bit further forward on an angle. And then you have to come up onto the toes, shift the weight into the hands. Maybe you just play with this teeter-totter, hugging the legs toward each other. Maybe you feel that little activation like you're doing a scapular push-up and tip forward. Maybe hug the elbows toward each other. Maybe the feet come off for a split second. Maybe you're already flying in side crow, in which case, awesome. Maybe you face planted, in which case, awesome. I hope you're okay. But that's all the fun of side crow. All right, shake it out. Release. And then let's try it one more time on the opposite side. I got my feet minusculely for a moment off the floor. Again, I haven't done this in years. Anyway, inhale, chair pose. All right, maybe you stay here. Maybe you twist and stay here. Maybe you start to reach right away, or maybe you come down into that sort of toe stand. Keep hugging the legs toward each other. Set up the hands, and it's different from one side to the other. Right, give yourself space, bend the elbows, look forward, hug the elbows toward each other. Maybe you tip forward. Maybe just play with those teeter-totters. I have an injury on this arm that's supporting, so I'm not going to go for the lift of the legs, but maybe you lift your feet, but hug the legs toward each other. That's going to give you so much stability here, so much support. If you're in chair pose and the twist, I promise, last 2 breaths here. All right, and then inhale, shake it out. Awesome work, I'm assuming. Let's make our way down to the floor. So inhale up to the sky. Exhale, forward fold. And then for 3 breaths, inhale, a little partway lift. Exhale, let it all go. 2 more. And then bend your knees, plant your hands. Come down to hands and knees for a little wiggle or shake. And then shift your hips on one side. Swing your legs forward. From here, you might do a Pilates style roll down to come down to the floor, or you can use your hands for support, but eventually make your way onto your back. Once you're down, hug your knees in toward your chest and take a little rock from side to side. Let's end with a passive twist. So take your right arm out to the side. Maybe you shift your hips right a little bit to start with. And as you exhale, lower your knees to the left. Now let this be a place of ease. This is not what the Pilates style twists that we were doing at the start. You could have your knees stacked. You could take a single leg twist. You could cross your legs and go wherever you need to go in this twist. But let it feel like it's bringing some ease to your body. Last couple breaths here. And then on your inhale, return to center. Reset your pelvis and your spine. Maybe shift your hips left a bit, left arm out to the side. Exhale, knees to the right. Again, as gentle or as deep of a twist as you need. And any variation. Last few breaths here. And on your inhale, return to center. Reset your pelvis and your spine. If there's anything else you feel like you need before your rest, a posture or a meditation, please feel to go. Feel free to go where you need to go. Otherwise, make your way into your final resting pose, which could be flat on your back, legs bent or straight in Shavasana. You could rest on your side or in child's pose or in a seated meditation. And there's no rush to get there. But once you have found your pose of rest for 3 breaths, inhale through your nose. Exhale, sigh your breath away. 2 more. Let go of your breath control. Return to your natural breath as much as possible. Let go of any last muscle gripping or tension. Take a moment to thank yourself for coming to this practice today. for trying something maybe brand new, or maybe it's an old favorite. And a moment of thanks for your body, for moving and breathing and falling and flying for you. Stay here longer if you can, 5, 10 minutes. Thank you so much for joining me today. Namaste.